first person to speak is Abhishek Gupta. Abhishek heads T Labs, and incidentally I work with him. So I will try to be as impartial to him in my questions as I can, and represent the general startup's perspective while he's talking. What will be very useful is that, so Abhishek will tell you about accelerators and why you should care about accelerators, what roles accelerator plays in the startup ecosystem in this point of time. What you should also ask him is to why shouldn't you as your startup should apply for an accelerator, and if you don't think accelerator works for you, tell him why it doesn't work for you. Maybe he has answers for you to know better. Okay, welcome Abhishek. Please start with an introduction to yourself.
Thank you.
You want a mic?
First, let's get a couple of things straight. Arpit will not ask any questions because he knows too many secrets at T-Lab for him to ask questions. Seriously, not joking.
Sure.
Not you as well. Two of you guys who are from T-Lab should not ask any questions. Rest of you can ask questions. And second thing is, you should not care about accelerators. We don't do shit. So, but we'll come to that part, what we do. So, let me introduce myself. I'm Abhishek. I started T-Labs 2 years ago. By started, I mean, I started from, it's still a job. I'm working at Times of India, Times Internet Limited. It's an initiative of Times Internet Limited. But I was recruited to start T-Lab. A little bit about myself before that. I was an entrepreneur, but not always. Passed out from IDBHU 99 batch, actually computer science. But till then, I had no idea that you could start companies, you could go out, work on an idea for a couple of months, release it, and charge $20 per month from a customer. I had no fucking idea about that, right? So one thing that we could do was join companies. So I joined a company called iFlex. It was actually called Sickle, Citibank Information Technology, but then it changed its name to iFlex, and now it's Oracle. And then from there I went to New York and worked with Citibank for 3 years. And then I got married. That was a change in my life. And so that was a tricky part because then I had to shift to Delhi because my wife used to work in Delhi. So we made a pact. After marriage, I went to Bombay and she went to Delhi. And we decided that we will start looking for jobs. She will look for a job in Bombay and I will look for a job in Delhi. But apparently, I think she did not look for any job in Delhi. She did Bombay. She did not apply. One, it was scary to live in Bombay. It was great. I mean, the nightlife was great. But once you go back to your house, you realize that it was scary. After you've lived in Delhi for so long. So I was the sincere guy. Guys are always sincere, I've noticed that. So I applied for jobs in Delhi.
Husbands are always sincere.
I applied for a job in Delhi and took up the first job. So I was the first person in India. I was working on .NET even before .NET was released. And this company who had some clients in .NET, they said that they're almost like a big company and everything. I did not, so background check, didn't care about it. दिल्ली में जॉब मिल रही है, 1 महीने के अंदर मिल गई, फटाफट बोरिया बिस्तर बांधा, प्लेन पे डाला, लैंड कर गए यहाँ पर. And then I went to this company सुबह मॉर्निंग में, नोएडा से सब्जी मंडी, ओखला सब्जी मंडी के पास बोला था. Landed there on the सब्जी मंडी and saw कि बस एक तरफ सब्जी मंडी है, गंदी बदबू आ रही है, सब्जी का एक ढेर लगा हुआ है, दूसरी तरफ ये बिल्डिंग है. इनकी दिस गाय सेड दिस इज द बिल्डिंग, ऑटो वाला. आई सेड बॉस ऐसा बिल्डिंग नहीं हो सकता है. कमिंग बैक फ्रॉम न्यूयॉर्क एंड कमिंग बैक फ्रॉम पार्ला में बहुत ही अच्छी बिल्डिंग थी आईफ्लेक्स की. मैंने कहा थोड़ा आगे चलो, आगे होगी बिल्डिंग. मैं आगे ले आया 500 मीटर्स, बोला मोदी मिल्स आ गया. सारा बिल्डिंग नहीं है यहाँ पे, वही है. मैंने कहा चलो वापस चलो. तो पिकाडली हाउस में नेक्स्ट टू सब्जी मंडी वॉज दिस कंपनी which was just all of 30 people in probably a room this big, right? That was my first shop and that was my first startup, right? सोचा कि यहाँ पे आऊँ नहीं आऊँ भागूँ, let's look for another job. But मैंने कहा यार let's take, I'm a person that always takes, तो वहाँ पे start कर दिया job. But I really loved it there, and everybody that was in that room, they were great guys. They were very good technically. So for the last 3 years, I was not challenged technically, but every day in that company, I got challenged. I really enjoyed working in that company. That was my first startup experience. There were days when 48 hours straight we were just writing programs. बाहर सुट्टा पीते थे, ऊपर क्रिकेट खेलते थे, और नीचे वापस आके. Though I was married, I was doing all of these things, and really enjoyed it. Worked there for three years. That company really grew. From the 30 people from that small room, right now it is in 4 countries. I guess 5: Argentina, Ukraine, US, and India. Any guesses? It was in Noida. If anybody knows my history, they can guess. But that company is called Global Logic right now. Some of you might have heard about it, right? It's a 6,000 people company right now. When I joined, interestingly, there is also one interesting thing in my life. Whenever I join a company, it changes name 3 times. iFlex changed its name from Settle to iFlex to Oracle. I joined EB providers, Indus Logic, and then it became Global Logic. And then I started my own company, which was LimeSpot. It was MS something, then it became LimeSpot, and then it became LimeLab. Hopefully T-Lab will stick. It has not changed its name so far. But so that was my first tryst with startups, and I really loved that. But after this company was, when it reached around 1,200 people and it shifted to a bigger office, I realized that it was missing that startup culture. So with a friend of mine, and it came easy to me. It's not easy, but got funded for an idea on PPT by a person who was in New York. He had come to visit India and he had met one of my friends and me, and funded our idea on a web property that we were working on. So we raised some funding, built it for 5 years. Unfortunately, that did not work out. But we learned a lot from that company. It was called LimeLab, as I said earlier. We were building a couple of products. One was the hosting products, and one was a freelancer marketplace. So this guy was same who had promoted LimeWire. Anybody heard of LimeWire? So he was the founder of LimeWire, and he had funded LimeLabs, and we ran LimeLabs for 5 years. Unfortunately, LimeWire also got in the bad sides of Recording Industry Association of America and got sued for $740 million. They finally in 2010, early 2010, settled for $110 million, and उसके बाद Mark Gordon ने बोला नहीं मेरे पास पैसे नहीं है. We were still losing money. We were a cash flow negative company. So he said कि I don't have money for you guys. Now either you sell this company, buy it. So he had this option on the table कि खुद खरीद लो तुम दोनों लोग मिलके. Obviously we did not have money. Or let's just disintegrate the company and sell it in parts. So that was probably the worst choice, but best at the time. So we sold Lime Domains to NetFronts, another hosting company in US. So we broke it into 2 parts. LimeDomains.com and LimeExchange.com, and LimeExchange.com was sold to Freelancer. If you still type these 2, they will go to NetFronts, and we learned a lot from those 5 years. Actually, a lot of it. And then I again started a company for 6 months, shut it down after 6 months because I realized that it's not working. And the learnings that I had in those 6 months, those 5 years and 6 months, I put it to T-Labs, all of those learning. So as soon as these guys who joined T-Labs, the first presentation that I give them, and the first 2 slides is, don't do what I did, right? Don't raise too much money. Don't hire big bright guys. So we used to hire from top from IIT Delhi and IIT Bombay. So first 10 people who had joined us were computer science, IIT Delhi and IIT Bombay, right? I'm not saying you shouldn't go and hire bright people, but there is a way of running a startup, and which is a very iterative way or a very experimental way. What we did was we built for 2 years, and we made a lot of mistakes, and we did not go to the customers. What we teach at T-Labs is go to the customers as early as possible. But we'll come to that. So that's my story, and it transitions into T-Lab in 2010 early when I quit Lime Labs. I joined T-Labs, and so far T-Labs has done 14 companies, 3 batches. 4th batch is going to start on. At T-Labs, so it's a very the first thing I said to you guys that you shouldn't care about accelerator, whether you're starting up or not starting up, because at the end of the day, accelerators or anybody, comes as a VC, comes with a lot of baggage. As long as you can avoid and work on your idea and bootstrap your idea, do that. Right? You don't need to bother about few lakh of rupees. And I'm saying this only for, I assume that you all guys, all of you are technology companies, all of you are internet and mobile companies, right? This may not apply to some segment. If you're building a power station, or if you're building an aircraft, obviously it will not apply to that. But if you are building an internet technology company, right? If you have an idea, then rather than taking that idea to an accelerator or VC, just work on that idea. And the reason I say that is because we will come with some baggage. We will accelerate the process of you working on that idea, but we can't look at the just a concept stage or a PPT and tell you whether you will be able to build it or how far you will be able to take it. When you build something, that's just the best time when I can look at that idea and say, I can add value to it, or what you are doing is on the right path. And that idea should be taken to the customers as early as possible. So let me take a step back. We'll talk about T-Labs structurally first. So T-Labs is 4-month program. It never started as a 4-month program because we were also a startup. We were experimenting. So the first thing that we did was copy-paste Y Combinator, 13-week program, dinners, and we will invite mentors and do this and do that. But the moment the first batch hit us, we realized that this is not going to work. So we started changing rapidly, and that's the iterative approach I asked my startups to take. So every 2 weeks we were going back and we were trying to figure out whether this is working or not working, whether the startups are getting value or not, right? And that was 2 years back, and now we have, in a way, in a nutshell, a set of processes, a dashboard that we make for every startup, which is from the leap of faith that startup has started. We get to them, we talk to them, what is your leap of faith, what did you do? And then to a dashboard which is a very objective matrix where we ask the startups to track that dashboard. Some do and some don't. We ask these questions to these two guys whether they track the dashboard or not. But what we want you is to take that knowledge of objectifying everything, objectifying each and every experiment that you run. So those leap of faith translate into some experiments. They translate into some things that you will do, and then you will go back to that leap of faith, and after you've run the experiment and figure out whether it was successful or failed, right? And so far, next week at T-Labs, every 2 weeks or every 1 week we'll tell you to ship. Again, it's up to you to say whether you will ship in 2 weeks or whether you will ship in 1 week. But after that experiment, you will come back to your dashboard, you'll fill all the values and figure out whether the experiment has succeeded or experiment has failed. So within like 2 months or 3 months when you are at T-Labs, you will have done 10 to 12 experiments in your startup and you have figured out the strategy. The big part about whenever you talk to big CEOs and everybody, they will say that strategy worked. But how did they reach that strategy? It is never reached in a conference room or in a meeting room brainstorming. It is reached by experimentation. It is reached by talking to the customers and seeing what is working with the customer and what is not working with the customer. And that's how they devised this strategy. So with T-Labs, the learning that most of the startups get is how to get to that strategy, how to see what is working and what will work with this market. And so when we had started, we had divided this program into 3 parts. The first part of the program was technology, product, UI, UX. The second part of the program was marketing, and the third part of the program was raising money. But realize that most of you guys who are sitting out there will build. You are all better than technology than probably me or anybody else who's out there, even in Valley, right? You will be able to build a product. You will be able to solve technology. But most of the startups struggle with distribution. They struggle with going out in the market. That's what the feel that I got with all 14 of the startups, working with them day in and day out. And that's where meat of our program now resides. After the last batch, we've experimented and gotten into this 2 months. First month is still UI UX. 2 months is all about distribution. And also our filters have changed now. We take startups that have built something and that can launch within the first 4 to 5 weeks of the program itself. So after you launch, it's rapid. You will do a rapid experiment and figure out what are the metrics. Hopefully, within the 8 to 9 weeks that your T Labs will figure out what is working and what is not. And later on, you will see these two guys tell you whether they could find their strategy, their mozo or not. But most of the startups do. Some of the startups don't. The failure rate is high. And what we do at an accelerator program is we try to reduce that failure rate of startups. So if you've heard this, that 90% of the startups fail, they still do. Believe me, we are not changing that number. But if you're part of T Labs, we'll make sure that for the number of startups that we fund, that is not 90%, that is probably around 60% or 70%. So again, structurally speaking, we fund each company with 10 lakh of rupees, and we go through an application process where we receive a lot of applications, but at the end of the day we select 10 to 15 companies. We receive 250, 300 applications every time we open our applications. We run in 2 batches a year. First batch starts in February and the second batch of the year starts in August. And we go through a series of meetings with each co-founder, each founder of the company. Generally it takes 2 to 3 meetings for us to reach that decision. We are much faster because we have to start a batch than most VCs. But within 2 or 3 weeks after you have the first meeting, we will make a decision whether we are funding your company or not. We'll give you a term sheet, which is a pretty regular term sheet. You can find it anywhere. I think it is out there as well. But if you ask me, I'll give you that term sheet as well. And it's a fairly regular term sheet. After you sign that term sheet, you join the program and be with us for 4 hours. It's a residential program, so you have to be based at Noida for 4 months, and then after the demo day. So after 4 months, we do a demo day where we invite a lot of investors and our mentors and the startups who are part of the accelerator program pitch to investors and mentors. Luckily, some of the startups find investors who are interested in funding these companies, and they go on talking to these companies. In India, funding cycle is a little bit larger, so don't expect anybody to get funded directly at the demo day. Nobody writes a check on the demo day in India. I haven't heard that, but I have seen that it gets very closer. A couple of months out the demo day, you can get funded, but that's not typically most companies. That's the best case. For these 4 months, as I was saying, you have to be based out of Noida. But it's not that you have to be based in office all 5 days or all 7 days. In fact, what we do is we push out our startups and tell them to go and meet their customers, figure out what they're selling, figure out the value proposition of their product. So at T Labs, hopefully you will find your right product market fit. And then after you've gone from T Labs, so most typically the 10 lakh rupees will, and the kind of startups that get to T Labs, which is around 1 to 2 years experience, 3 to 4 years experience, that do not have a lot of monthly expenses. Probably they would 25,000 or 50,000 is where most people will live. If you do the math, it lasts most companies around 6 months to 10 months, or for some cases 12 months as well. And that's a sweet spot of most of the companies to figure out what they're doing, figure out a customer validation of the product, figure out if there are more customers that want the product, and figure out efficacy of the distribution channels, of the channels they have tried and experimented with. Most companies that they don't figure out in this month where that 10 lakh rupees will last will probably die down after that. The companies who do manage to raise funding as well as get cash flow positive. So our main focus is, if you are a direct revenue company, then you have to get to a cash flow positive situation. That's when you can ask the investors to put the money in you for not sustainability but growth. So when you ask money for sustainability, then you are on the bad side of the table, right? Then you will take anything that is offered. But when you're asking money for growth, then you have something to negotiate against. You're saying to your investors that, guys, I'm surviving, I'm still selling to customers, I'm getting money from my customers, but what I want is to grow, and that's why I need the money, and I will grow the money for you as well, and that's why you should invest in me. But please remember that not all of the companies are direct revenue companies. When I mean direct revenue, you are selling something, and you're taking a profit out of that, and your unit economics should work that operations cost and marketing cost is taken care of. Indirect companies are companies like social networks who have advertising revenue, companies who are selling for their partners, affiliate and resellers, and a bunch of other indirect revenues which are when you are not taking directly from the customers, because these companies take time to build up. Unless you have some unique views or some mobile downloads, you will not get paid from advertisers or partners or vendors or other businesses. So these companies, so if you're running anything that has got to do with indirect revenues, if you have indirect revenues, if you don't have any direct revenues, then you have to stick longer and you have to be in the game. Those 10 lakh rupees will not last, but hopefully there will be an investor that will see that you have number of downloads and you'll put money in it. A value proposition to your customers is a must. So I don't know, am I running out of time?
It's okay.
All right. So any questions so far on accelerator model, anything that I have forgotten?
Yeah, so what is the right time for a startup to approach an accelerator? And does it really differ in case of between product company and predominantly services company?
I can't tell you about services company because though I work in a services company, we don't fund services company. We are pretty much product focused and technology focused. So one thing that I did not tell before I answered your question, that we are a tech accelerator. So we fund, that doesn't mean that we help a lot in technology. We fund only technology, internet, mobile companies. Anything that has to do with technology, IT is what we fund. I said we are not we were more of a business accelerator. We help in business processes, help in distribution and marketing much more than technology. Because I think, I'm a tech person, I can help you with technology, but looking at the 14 startups, I figured out most of these guys will handle technology, they will handle product, but distribution is the Achilles heels of most of the startups. So coming back to your question, so there is never a right time to approach an accelerator, or a VC for that matter. As I said, bootstrap, always bootstrap. But so what I'm saying is, don't go for anybody, don't for money, right? You should have the right reasons to go to any person, and those right reasons should be the business growth and scalability of that business, right? If you see that you're stuck and you're not making any progress week over week or month over month, right? If you see that you're caught up in, so you guys have to be very, very smart and critical of yourself. I'm pretty sure everybody in this room is very intelligent, very smart, right? But we are always not critical of ourselves. We do not look back into what we have done, right? And say that, let's open up the Pandora box and let's see objectively whether I have gained something or not. The moment you start doing that, I was not always like that, right? I was always, very proud of things that I've built. I still am, right? But when I look back, in hindsight, sometimes I don't see any progress at all. I'm just adding features. Adding features doesn't mean progress. It has to go to customers. So look back into what you have done in the last 2 to 3 months or last 4 to 5 weeks, if you have just started out. See that if you have only added features to your product, but you have not done any kind of validation and you have not gone out to the customer. If that's the case, if you are not making any progress in terms of validation to the customer, if you have not made any progress in terms of validation from people who are talking about your product, then that's the right time to approach an accelerator. Because what we do is, we cut the flap. We tell you not to develop features. We tell you to take it to the customer first, after you have built an MVP. So if you have built an MVP and you are continuing to develop features, that's the most worst thing that you can do to your product and to your startup. What will happen is, soon you will run out of money and you will shut down a product that you are very proud of. That's not a good situation, right? So look back and see whether it is the right time, whether you have made any progress, and you can define progress objectively by, setting for yourself a benchmark, right? That I will have 50 users by 1st of August. Do you have 50 users by 1st of August? Is the question you should ask yourself. If you don't, set the slider scale a little bit further and say, you'll have 50 users by another 2 weeks. If you don't, that's the right time to get help from somebody, help from a mentor or a help from an accelerator, and go to them and say, dude, I figured out how to build, but with you I'm going to figure out how to grow faster.
So you said that you figured out how to build, but if you look into the room, right, a lot of these, I think most of these guys are either thinking about an idea, so there are like very basic idea stages, okay? So they haven't actually done anything about the idea. But a lot of these people would be at concept stage when they're probably developing a prototype or developing a product. That is the time so the expectation is for a lot of people these days that if I'm developing a product, that is the time I should go to an accelerator, because those guys will have that either. So if I'm a techie, those guys will have the business skills to offer. And similarly, if I'm a business guy, those guys will have the technical skills to offer. So that is the expectation. So is that right? And is that some course correction which should be done?
So if you're just thinking about that idea, I heard somebody said in the room that there is sleepless nights with that idea. You did. How many sleepless nights or weeks or months? You should get out of this room, right? Frankly speaking. If you are sleeping with an idea for 6 months, then you don't belong in Startup Territory. If you have an idea that is niggling you for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, just start working on that idea. Just find people who can work on that idea. People who could be co-founders. Quit your job. It doesn't sound that easy. It is not easy. But running a startup is not easy, right? Whereas the second class of people, right? Don't mind me, because probably it will help you in the long run. Second class of people are who have worked on an idea and have reached a prototype, right? If you can't reach to an MVP, or if you can't build a product, and if you're lost in the product itself, then there are mentors who could help you, even accelerators who could help you. So what we do is we engage with a lot of startups even before we get them in an accelerator program. Sometimes it's 7-8 months out that we start engaging with entrepreneurs who need us. We help at that stage. But if you have not built anything, if you're in the process of building, we can't help much. When you have built something, right, and it is where you think it's complete or more than complete, then come to us and we'll help you launch from there. There are other accelerators who help in technology as well. I'm not saying accelerators don't help in technology and product. A lot of accelerators help in technology and building that product. But the cycle is longer for those accelerators. Sometimes it's 6 months, sometimes it's 9 months. With us, with T-Labs, we help you in defining the product much better. So if you've come with the product, we'll sit with you and define the product. We'll probably throw away some of the features. We'll probably tell you to include a couple of features based on your hypothesis. And then we'll provide you that launching pad that you can go from here. Any other questions?
Yeah, Abhishek, so when you talk about we, so what do you have?
This question is not from Arpit, right?
No, it's not. Absolutely. I mean, he will be knowing the answer to it anyway. Yeah. So, who are these mentors that advise these startups on which course correction, on whether if it's to ditch a feature or what kind of a market to approach? So, who are these mentors?
So most of the mentors are actually people who have done a startup, who have failed or succeeded in doing startups, and you can see that at our T-Labs page in mentors. 3 of us are also mentors who run T-Labs and work with startups very closely. What we do is, we try to figure out what is missing and what kind of expertise and help is needed with the startups. And we help with that, help connecting with the mentors who have that expertise. So these mentors would be either CEO, CXO working on their own startups. Some of the functional experts are also mentors. So, because we are a part of Times Group, we have access to a lot of functional experts. So an SEO expert, we'll get that SEO expert. An SMM expert, we'll get that SMM expert. Who is doing that, by the way? Who is in that thick of the job. He's not the CEO who's running 5 or 6 things. He is doing social media marketing. He's doing search engine optimization. Right? We get those people on board as well for workshops. We invite a lot of CEOs and CXOs to talk about various topics. For example, in the last batch, Rajan Anandan, MD of Google, was there to look at the companies and also talk about various markets. So there are sessions that happen every Thursdays or Friday, and there is a course that we follow. But we do course corrections, in the mid of the program, depending on where our startups are. Most of the startups are not at the same place most of the time. Some of the startups are building, some of the startups are launching, some have launched. So it needs a lot of one-to-one interaction with the startups as well, one-to-one mentorship. And so every Friday that we'll look at startups progress, look at the dashboard, and figure out what helps it need and connect it to the mentor for one-on-one help as well.
Oh, thank you.
So what kind of value add do you expect from the startups? What kind of value add do you expect from the startups?
The question should be opposite. What kind of value add should
So I think you mentioned that already, so that's why I didn't ask. I have both the sides.
Value add from a startup? You are building a fucking product.
No. You mentioned it earlier actually.
As an accelerator only.
Yeah.
As an accelerator, what do we
expect?
What do you
from startup?
expect?
What do you expect from the startups?
The whole, your arm and leg and everything.
We expect 24 hours in a day from you. Nothing less than that. Can you answer that question? Both of you. What do we expect from you?
We will be answering that.
So we expect 24 hours from you. We expect that your 100% is in going into building that company. You breathe your idea, you breathe your product, breathe in and breathe out. You talk passionately about it. You pitch to investors. You don't go home. You get beaten by your parents. When you are a socially outcast, then that means that you have given enough value.
So T-Labs is so comfortable that we literally stay there 24/7.
No, but on a serious note, it's your startup. That question is exactly opposite, right? What value add can we add to your startup? It's your startup, it will remain your startup. If you can't run your startup with the full force of your life, right, then it's not going to run. As simple as that. Everything aside, whether you can build a company, build a product, go and sell it, marketing, everything aside, the first and foremost thing that you should think about is, are you passionate about that bloody idea that you're working on? कोई third reason तो नहीं है जिसकी वजह से तुम if you're working on a startup. Is it money? Money is an after effect of it, right? But if you are just moved by social network and Mark Zuckerberg's story and you started working on something, again a social network, then you are spoiling your life. Then you're not doing justice to yourself. Are you moved by, can you, not stop thinking about that idea, right? Can you just say, 2 weeks and every time I'm in the shower, every time I'm ready sit in the plot, every time I'm eating, I'm thinking about that idea. And still you can't leave your job to do that idea, you are stupid. Leave everything that you have and start out on the job. Again, easier said than done. That's why I say, sweet spot of starting up is when you pass college and when you get married. Those 5 to 6 years is where you can really do experiments with your life. You can really run a startup. You can really run a company. After you get married, or you get a supporting wife like me, then to life was easy. Still I run startups because she supports me every time.
Yeah, so my wife's my VC, so
Exactly. If your wife is funding your lifestyle, then you can run it, keep running it. Or if you're a rich boy, have saved, or you've saved in the last 5 years. I still know people who are 40 years old and they, run startups. They dare to start up. It is tough, but it needs your 100%, more than 100%. It needs your 200%. And don't listen from people who have succeeded. Listen from people who have failed and who have failed again and again, but they start up. To be an entrepreneur, so people romanticize being entrepreneurs. It has somehow become sexy, especially after social network and a lot of other stories that you see, Steve Jobs story, Bill Gates story. But what they don't advertise is the tough tasks, the tough 2 or 3 years that these guys went through. And if you read in details about every entrepreneur's failed and successful entrepreneurs, you will see that starting off for the last 3 years or 4 years before they got successful. I remember a quote, I may not remember it correctly, but it says, you have to work hard for 10 years to be an instant success. Nobody talks about those 10 years where it was hell for those entrepreneurs, right? So before you can have that skill set and before you can build, it's the passion that will take you from point A to point B, nothing else. Not skill set, not because you can sell, not because people believe in you, but because you believe in you. So if you're not passionate and if you're doing for X, Y, Z, impress your girlfriend, impress your friends because your friends are doing it, because you just saw social network, don't do it. Do it because you're passionate about it.
Two questions. One, how do you validate?
You'll get one. Uske baad we'll come back.
Question is broken into two parts.
Okay.
So one question. So how do you validate your own startup idea? Number one. And number
Build
two-
something and take it to the market. Nobody can validate it for you, no amount of research. So I was in I'll answer that first and then probably to the second part because I had a huge discussion with one of the top managers of Yes Bank. I generally avoid it, but I was in a program where an institute was getting launched and they were building their curriculum for entrepreneurship. So I was in this huge room of 20, 25 professors, all 60 years, 50 years of age, and I'm the only person who's sub 40, and I'm getting beaten for every comment that I make. And I had a huge fight with a top Yes Bank manager on how you should, take a startup, validate an idea of a startup. So my personal belief is, and I'm just talking about internet and tech, and that was the debate that I was having with him. And startups that can be built in, or products that can be built in quick amount of time, is build an MVP, right? And the logic that I applied there with the soap was, he said, what if I'm building a soap? I said, build small pieces of soap and distribute it to your customer. Give it to your customers and take their live feedback. If you are solving the right problem, right? If there is a pain that you're solving, customers will use it and they will come back and give you feedback. There are early adopters. First, so I'm a techie, right? I used to believe that selling possible nahi hai mere liye, and customers don't give feedback. But what I've seen, running 14 companies and also running my companies and talking to 100 other companies, if you're solving the right problem, people give you feedback and people give you right feedback, and then you build the entire product based on those feedback. So validation, ask these two guys that question when they are up at the stage. When people are downloading your apps, people are visiting and engaging, when people are paying for you, that you have solved some problem, but hey, I need more. That's the validation you're talking about. The biggest question that should be answered is कि कहीं मैं बहुत छोटे से market का problem तो नहीं solve कर रहा हूँ. Is it niche? Because you can do some research about it, but ultimately you'll find out in the next 5 to 6 months or maybe 1 to 2 years कि कहीं market ही इतना छोटा नहीं हो कि you're still solving the problem, people are paying you for it, but you don't become more than a lifestyle business. What was your second question?
So what if you're not a techie? I can't write codes and all. So do I need a techie co-founder for this?
For building a startup which is tech, yes.
To be an excellent programmer?
Or learn programming. Programming is not that difficult. You can learn programming in 2 months. So forums like these, software developers has you don't learn programming the way probably these guys do it, but you can still build an MVP if you're smart enough, if you have that logical brain. But I was about to say something. But so these forums like these are the best places where you will find your co-founders. And the first thing, again, if you can't sell your idea to somebody who you want to be a co-founder, then you'll not be able to sell your idea to anybody, right? So there are forums like Startup Saturday, forums like TIE, forums like Startup Weekend. Startup Weekend is a more involved process. 54 hours you're working with somebody. If you go to that, in 50 hours, then there is Peer Hack. There's a lot of forums, communities that are available that you can find techie. And if you can sell your idea to a techie, where he says कि boss idea पसंद है, मैं कल अपना resignation दे रहा हूँ, that means that's a strong validation, by the way, from one person at least.
Abhishek, how easy is it to find a co-founder
It's very difficult.
and then stick with that co-founder and continue to building a successful company? I mean, how many people have actually
And if
done
I could
that?
add to that,
Difficult.
is it really important to have a co-founder in the first place? I mean,
Difficult to the power of difficult to the power of difficult is the answer to your question.
Yeah, so wouldn't it be
And the
easier to
answer
just...
your question is yes, absolutely. Never start alone. You can, but you have to be very disciplined or very ready to do that. There will be times when, and there are times when, you know, people come to me कि अब नहीं हो रहा, अब मैं इसके आगे नहीं जा सकता. उसके साथ बैठ के बहुत सारी मगजमारी करनी पड़ती है to understand कि तुम जा सकते हो उसके आगे. Right? There will be times for a single founder कि बस give up, I'm not doing it. Or continue drinking, continue going in the wrong direction, thinking that you're going in the right direction. There is always a second level of validation. That's why you have to find a co-founder that complements you. Right? His thinking. So the company that I found with a friend of mine, our thinking are pulls apart. We fight every instance that we get together, and for the last 10 years, we have been getting together every Friday. Right? Of course, we are running a company, and we used to fight in the boardrooms. But what that does to you is, it gives you a different perspective. Right? If you are drinking your Kool-Aid, you're probably going in the wrong direction most of the time. Right? Somebody needs to be there to get you out of that direction, and somebody needs to be there for you to become your soundboard, to give you an emotional support. Right? Again, as I said, it's an emotional journey than a logical journey. People, think that it's a very logical, physical journey. पैसा रेज हो जाएगा, काम हो जाएगा, फिर हम यहाँ हो जाएंगे सक्सेसफुल और फिर मेरे ऊपर पिक्चर बन जाएगी. ऐसा होता नहीं है. It's an emotional journey. It's always रात को उठोगे, कल सैलरी देनी है, बैंक में पैसा नहीं है, and you'll start pacing. 20 कप कॉफी बनाओगे, पियोगे, और फिर सोचोगे कि पैसा कहाँ से लाना है. फिर सुबह मॉर्निंग में अपनी लिस्ट में से 50 लोगों को फोन करोगे कि बॉस मुझे पैसा चाहिए, कल एम्प्लॉइज को सैलरी देनी है. That's where a co-founder comes handy. और लिस्ट को 50-50 डिवाइड करके दो लोग कॉल कर सकते हैं. And उसके भी फ्रेंड्स होंगे तो there will be more people to call. Sorry, you were saying something.
Kind of well put, and I agree with what you said. However, the question was about finding a co-founder, right? So if I know somebody and I've been getting along with that person, and that person will provide this kind of emotional support, but does it really work out? Maybe coming to a forum and looking for someone when you already have an idea. I mean, I would rather, it's probably because I don't have the money to pay a coder or maybe to pay a salesperson or something like that. That's the reason why I would hire a co-founder rather than probably because there's a bond, and I think forming a startup requires a bond, and the kind of support you're talking about, that kind of a bond, does it really happen if you just find someone, or is it? I mean, I know it happens if someone's already there.
After meeting my wife a month later, I knew there was a bond. I mean, after meeting my friend, I knew there was a bond, but it became a 10 years bond where we ran 2 companies. There is no way to answer this question, right? You go and probably in one meeting you figure out that you shared something special with that person, to get married. You share something special with that person to run a company with. You share something special. So how do we meet? We meet as strangers, right? Except for families, your parents or your siblings. Everybody that you have met was a stranger first day, right?
Yep.
But then you share a bond with a lot of those people. Probably they are in the same class. Probably they are whatever be the case, right? But so co-founder is the same thing. Co-founder is a marriage that you do for 10-12 hours of a day, and then you have a marriage at 10-12 hours of a day at home. So it has to be well thought of. You have to share a bond with your co-founder, and it could be just about the problem you're solving, or it could be because you're just crazy about startups or running a company. It could be anything, right? But and there could not be a bond. It's not necessarily that there has to be a bond, right? Sometimes I've seen 2 people perfectly complementing each other without sharing something, but just that idea that they're crazy about building something out of that idea. And yeah, you're right that it does not happen in 1 day or 2 hours in these forums. But that's how you meet people. You meet more people, the chances of getting a co-founder is high. I mean, there is no way to answer that question, frankly speaking.
Last one. Okay. What are the top 3 challenges you're facing while handling the startups during the accelerator program? Top 3 common challenges.
That's a good one. First and foremost challenge is startups don't launch often. There is always that fear कि मेरे product में कुछ बाकी है, कुछ bugs हैं, कुछ और feature add करना है. Customers will not like it. एक बार launch करूँगा तो उसके बाद दोबारा कोई download नहीं करेगा. So that's the biggest fear that I.
Mindset problem.
It is a mindset problem. Like वो launch करने के बाद पता लगता है कि then they get happy after downloads start happening. But sometimes they don't get happy जब नहीं होता है. And they come back and tell me कि देखा मैंने बोला था launch delay कर देना चाहिए, आपने launch करा दिया और एक भी customer नहीं. But it's not about the launch. It's about whether you have made the right experiment or not. I think second biggest challenge probably would be not being fast enough. So we are a 2 weeks or a 1 week iterative, and we tell them to iterate fast and fast and fast. Sometimes you'll find people who will slow me to death. कि आज भी कर रहे हैं, कल भी कर रहे हैं, नहीं परसों कर देंगे. Then we'll expand it. अभी ये है challenge, वो है challenge. 50 things. If you're not fast enough, then it's not good to join an accelerator. Then you can continue working out of your garage and going at that same snail speed that you have been working on. I can't add you value if you can't launch every 2 weeks, every 2 days. You can't build or you can't fix something in 30 minutes or 40 minutes. I mean, I understand that it takes time to fix some of these things, but sometimes you have to just do it fast or take it out for that matter. If you can't fix it in like 2 days straight, just take that feature out. It's not worth it. And the third thing is not in the accelerator program, but this is what I've generally seen with entrepreneurs. I mean, it's true both cases, not persevering long enough. So people will be, कि ये नहीं चल रहा, छोड़ देते हैं. Right? Not experimenting or without data. Right? There was a startup, there was a founder that said कि ये नहीं चल रहा. And I told him कि you have to get to 2,000 people using these channels. तो मैंने कितने लोगों को बोला आपने, मतलब एक ट्वीट मारी 50 फॉलोअर्स को, and I don't think ये चलना है, let's do something else. So pivoting unnecessarily is what I've seen. I'm not saying pivoting, I'm saying if you don't persevere, और अगर तुम ये सोच के बैठे हो कि 3 महीने में तुम्हारा स्टार्टअप एक्वायर हो जाएगा, या फिर you will get millions of dollars in funding in 3 months, and that's your goal, and if you quit after that, then you'll not be able to run your startup. Oh, thank you guys.
Thank you, Abhishek. Okay, guys. So we will move on. There is so this bit is sponsored. So please bear with us. Masscom is an amazing sponsor for us. Amar is representing, and they have made a very amazing video for all startups in India. Like so. Rubesh, like so.
Arpit,
Yeah.
लेना है.
Yeah, play.
We're one of the world's oldest civilizations and are born with an innovation gene. Post-independence, when the world was leaping towards a technology revolution, India didn't really have the best opportunities. Talent moved out. In the 80s, the valley witnessed the arrival of the first Indian innovators. These legends would go on to invent the Pentium chip, pioneer open source and Ethernet technology. Even Google owes one of its first checks to an Indian. Indians tend to do pretty well outside India, don't they? By late 2000, 1 in 8 Silicon Valley startups had an Indian co-founder. That's because the Indian entrepreneur was beginning to enjoy the ecosystem created by the early innovators. Networking, mentoring, funding, and a support structure where winners would train the fighters. Meanwhile, the telecom and IT revolution positioned India as a global sourcing destination. By the late 90s, India was the global leader in IT services. The 21st century century saw the emergence of Made in India ventures that were vying to join the billion-dollar club. The last few years have seen a rapidly strengthening ecosystem of startups that are changing the world. With the advent of cloud, big data, mobility, India is now ripe for an innovation revolution. Life is too short. Start on. NASSCOM for startups.
Great, guys.